Shakespeare to Go has been going as long as the festival has, since 1982, and it's a way of taking one of our shows that we're going to do in the summer, condensing it into a short form that fits into our high school class length, and taking it out into the community.
Will, a sad tale's best for winter. I am one of sprites and goblins! Let's have that, good sir. There was a man. Nay, come sit down, let on, dwelt by a gravesite. I will tell it softly, all cricket shall not hear it. Come on, then, and give it me in my ear.
Well, what we do with Shakespeare to Go is we get a bunch of students together. It's actually a university class to start with. So we have, say, about 10 or 12 sometimes students from the university, and in this case, this year for the first time with the new NEA grant which we've received, we have an equity actor, Mike Ryan, who is also taking part, and we had a professional director, and we actually this year toured to 36 high schools in Santa Clara County, Santa Cruz County, and Monterey County.
What we hope kids get from seeing Shakespeare to Go when we take it to schools is that Shakespeare isn't a completely strange and alien thing, that it is something that still has issues which are very alive, that are relevant to their lives, that it isn't about pumpkin pants and fake Shakespearean dialects and sort of British snobby sounding words, that it's about war and jealousy and love and being a teenager and all those things that are really great. Hopefully they'll leave and be a little less afraid of it, think of it as something that may be more relevant to their lives.
I loved it. I've seen all of the Shakespeare to Go performances that have been here since I was a freshman, and I'm a senior now, and they're always great. They're just so entertaining, and I think they're really good to get the story in a short amount of time, and a good way for kids who haven't seen Shakespeare live before to actually get to experience it. So it's a good thing.
When you think of Shakespeare, normally you think, oh, rich, pompous, big worded, and you only ever see that in some professional theater, but when you have local groups like Shakespeare Santa Cruz come around to schools, then you see they're trying to reach out, and you can see that it's actually an everyday thing that you can really have fun with and totally go out on.
It's kind of scary when you introduce kids to Shakespeare, because what you're competing with is an MTV editing mentality where the image changes every 5 seconds. And so I think to myself, are they going to be able to tolerate something that has a thread like Shakespeare, where you have to sit and focus and you have to be the one who directs your energy? It isn't done for you. And what I found is that every time Shakespeare Santa Cruz comes out with this program, that the young actors are so vital and they move and they're bright and they're interesting, that there's no issue, there's no competition. It's as engaging as anything that is force-fed to you by the media, and it has so much more value. It's so much more accessible. The main thing that you have to prove in high school when you teach something is relevance. And it's easy to see Shakespeare as something arcane and cartoon-like and inaccessible to a teenager. But if you can prove the universality, the timelessness of the piece, then you've won a fan. And that's what Shakespeare has to say. Nothing's new under the sun. It's okay. It's comforting in a way that the same wars and battles and struggles and relationship problems have gone on, and that there's humor in it.
I think the reason that Shakespeare's plays are still so popular is that they're written with sort of universal themes like, love and tragedy, and this particular one, A Winter's Tale, is about jealousy, and that's something that just about everyone experiences at some point in their lives, especially teenagers with all our, dramatic dating occurrences and just sort of the process of growing up, and we experience a lot of those things, and so I think that they can Shakespeare's plays can teach lessons about that sort of stuff to high school students. So
you're saying you have love, jealousy, and tragedy in your dating scene? Is this right?
Well, not me personally, but just sort of the general experience of being a high school student and a teenager in today's world has a lot of dramatic things that occur with it. All the hormones and whatnot tend to create some fairly exciting situations, although they're not necessarily of Romeo and Juliet scope. So.
The ideas that Shakespeare presents in his plays are very, not only are they classical ideas and themes, but they're themes that will probably always be around, like jealousy and adultery. You know, even though we may not use those terms as a high school student, those sort of things still do happen in real life. It's a very real life thing, and I think that's a very interesting thing about Shakespeare, is even though he had no idea what was going to be happening hundreds of years after he wrote his plays, those themes are still relevant in today's world.
I so enjoy it when they come out. At first it was sort of a gamble, but you can really count on every year when they come out here, there's going to be a wonderful show, an engaging show, and at least a handful of kids in the crowd want to do Shakespeare after they see it.
Like a lot of people, my excitement was ignited by a very good English teacher who introduced me to Shakespeare, who started directing me in plays. It was actually doing them rather than reading them that got me passionate about it. I come from an English boarding school, so before my voice broke, I played women's parts with you know, wearing a frock and a long wig and a good false chest, and which is how Shakespeare was originally performed. Boys played the women's parts, but it was actually the practical experience of doing it that got me passionate about it, because the thing about acting is that you have to think and feel and imagine all at the same time, which makes you feel more alive than anything else.
I think it is very important to have drama and arts in the schools, because if you didn't have art in society itself, then society would be kind of plain and boring. And drama and art is sort of a kid's excuse to actually express their opinions without getting in trouble, I guess you could say.
The story of jealousy is a story that needs to get told again and again to society when society forgets it. So he wanted to add old ancient elements.
We do question and answer afterwards, and also sometimes we do, and I think one of the most useful things is that Mike Ryan this year has been going out before the tour arrives by himself to do a preparatory session at high schools, which really gives a kind of framework to the show. We get all kinds of questions. I mean, the usual question, how do you learn your lines? But we get all kinds of questions about which is very thrilling, about the subject matter of whatever show we're doing. And these, as I say, these are big themes. So there's some very interesting and deep questions that come up. And today we're thrilled to host Congressman Sam Farr to our production of The Winter's Tale with Shakespeare to Go. He's here to see the National Endowment for the Arts in action and the effect that it has on kids and on education.
I think of Santa Cruz, the smallest county in California, is probably one of the greatest places in the United States to flourish in the arts. And we need to spend as much time and effort in supporting the arts as we do in reading and math and everything else, because this is where creativity begins, and creativity is the next invention. It may be the next high-tech instrument, it may be the next ballet or the next musical. So the invention process of stimulating the mind is what I think is so exciting here and you think about this what these students are doing is Shakespeare to Go is just it's stimulating the minds of young children. 35 schools they've been in, and how many of those children are now excited about the English language, excited about watching people perform Shakespeare and thinking maybe I'd like to do that in my life, and how that may carry on to some other jobs that would enrich our lives and enrich the economy of the United States. So I think this is very, very important, not only for the spirit of mankind, but for the economic well-being of mankind.
To anyone who, wants to cut arts budget, I would say please, please, please find as many other things to cut as you can, because I know obviously this is a very difficult budgetary time, especially for schools, and there's lots of things that are being cut that shouldn't be cut, but a lot of the time there isn't really much else you can do about it. But if there's any way to save the arts in schools, I think that's an amazing thing, because it can lead to future careers, it can lead to, just sort of a happier state of mind. People become more confident when they're involved in the performing arts, and it's just such a great way for students to express themselves, and I think that we don't get to do that enough in our other classes, which are just so focused on facts and memorizing things. And so I think that the arts are a really, really critical part of a student's education, and we need them.
And Shakespeare to Go teaches us something as well, because it is actually the seed of what we do in the summer. We are exploring a play in miniature which we take out, but then of course it's expanded during the summer festival, and we add other plays to it, and we run a full festival which runs, you know, every night of the week except Mondays, with 3 plays in full rep. Between the end of July and the very end of August, where we're performing 6 nights a week, and part of my job as artistic director is to go around the country. I hold auditions in New York, in Washington DC, in Seattle, in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, all over the place. I see hundreds of actors, and I bring in thrilling artists, professional actors and directors and designers, and we do what's been called one of the 10 best Shakespeare festivals in the country. We don't, of course, just do Shakespeare. I try and make seasons which put Shakespeare together with other exciting playwrights. But we've been called one of the 10 best in the country, and in a country that has, I think, over 130 Shakespeare festivals, that's not too shabby, so I hope you'll all come.